time for sound design. In today's video, I'm gonna get out of my 4/4 comfort zone and experiment with 3/4 time signature. So I made a few experiments in 3/4 and it sounds like this. So when you hear this beat, you might be thinking, okay, it sounds pretty straightforward. I have some drums, a bass synth, some pads, some texture. What is the big deal? But if you pay more attention to the rhythm, you might notice that there's a lot of snare drums relatively to the amount of kick drums. And that's because the track is written in 3/4 or also the waltz rhythm. 3/4 is used in waltz music. You can also make other music in 3/4. If I only play you the drums, it sounds like this. The boom, tsk, tsk, boom, tsk, tsk. That's the waltz drum pattern. So if you look here in Ableton, you have one kick, two snares, one kick, two snares. And that gives really that signature waltz kind of rhythm. Just to back up a little bit about time signature, most of the music I listen to, and probably you as well, is written in 4/4. So that means that you have 4 quarter notes in a bar, as you can see in this diagram. And in 3/4, you still have quarter notes, but there's only 3 in the space of 4. So if you then look at the drum program, the drum rhythm, instead of having, for instance, kick, snare, you have kick, snare, snare. And then you go back to the first of the beat. And you might wonder, why did I go out my way, went from 4/4 to 3/4? And that's really just to sort of get out of my comfort zone, try to write some kind of different music, still electronic music, but just by using an odd time signature, see if I can come up with different kind of tracks. So I experimented further and created another track in 3/4. I'll play you the track now. And so forth. So let's look at the drum track here. I have a couple of different tracks with drums on it. So if we look at this one in particular, let's mute all the other tracks. So what I did here is I have one kick drum and 2 snares, but the first snare is much lower in volume. And for the second bar, I added a few extra filler snares. And then together with the rest of the drums, it sounds like this. So to create a bit of variation in the snares, I use a clap on the first snare and a different kind of snare, noise snare on the second clap, on the second snare. As you also notice, the track is written in 130 BPM, but it doesn't feel that fast, and that's because of the 3/4 time signature. So you basically have less notes. So even though it is at 130, it feels kind of slower. And how you create a track in Ableton that is written in 3/4 is actually very easy. So let me zoom in here. On the top, you have the time signature window, and you can here just put your cursor and type in a number that you want. And then you see here on the timeline, let's zoom in here, bar 5, then you have 5/2, 5/3, and there's 6. So there's only 3 quarter notes in the on the timeline here. But the interesting thing is, if you have a session already in 4/4 and then you go to 3/4, but you already have clips in your session, the clips don't adjust. So in my clip, you can see 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 2. So the clip is actually still in 4/4, which means that if you want to have one bar, 3/4 of a bar here, and since I have a 2-bar loop, it's 1 bar and 2 beats. So basically you have to record a new clip for it to update. I don't know if there's another way around to convert this clip into a 3/4 clip. Oh, here it is. Time signature. There it is. Yeah. So you can convert the clip to 3/4. Great. that makes more sense. So my third experiment in the 3/4 time signature, here I sort of change it up a little bit. So I wrote the track in 124 BPM, and the first part is kind of a typical waltz pattern, but then in the second part I do a, well, it's not a 4 to the floor, it's a 3 to the floor kick drum part with a faster hi-hat, and it gets a bit more electronic. The other fun thing I think that I did here is I used the Numa player plugin, and I used the accordion, the Mastafisa sound under keys, which gives that kind of typical folk waltzy kind of sound. So that sounds on its own sounds like this. And it's doubling the synth line. So if it play the synth and the accordion together. So let me play you the first part. Here, part 1. So the thing I did here is I have a pattern of a kick and 1 snare that sounds like this. So it's kind of like a offbeat pattern. And then for second part, I did a 4 to the, or 3 to the floor, 3 on the floor kick drum. So as you can hear for the second part, the kick is on every beat. I have a very fast hi-hat, more like a shaker. With this kind of pattern, you create a much more kind of electronic dance kind of vibe. And the first part really feels like almost like half tempo, which kind of in a way it is, I would say, or maybe 3/4 of a tempo. So you can create a lot of variation in this way. And then for my fourth experiment in this 3/4 time signature, I created this track. It is this kind of quirky, very percussive beat. So when we just look at the drums for this one, so I have a 99 kick, a 709 rim shot, some percussion, hi-hats, 606 snare roll, but also this chopped up drum break, if I just play that on its own. And then a lot of little smaller percussive sounds. But let's look at the actual melody of this track. So if I mute all the drums, it sounds like I have the bass. Which is kind of the main melody. And then I have this little drift synthesizer, which is a little noise, but then it joins the bass in the last bar, or last 2 bars. And then I have this other element, sort of in the background. But the bass is really sort of the main melody of this track. As you can see, I'm developing it further, so there is work in progress. There's a lot of drums that is done, but the actual song needs to be developed more. So yeah, this is a short glimpse into my experiment with 3/4 time signature, and I think it's definitely worth pursuing this, because it does, as soon as you get out of the 4/4 time signature, everything becomes a bit uncomfortable and things become a bit different. So I think it's really great to challenge yourself sometimes to do this and see if you can actually write something that you're satisfied with. So I will continue experimenting in 3/4, and perhaps I will at some point create a whole EP with songs written in 3/4. Let's see where it takes me, but for now it's a great way to get out of the comfort zone. Let me know in the comments if you have experimented with other time signatures than 4/4. What is your favorite one? What is the one that gives you best results? What are the problems you run into? Keep making music. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.